I don't know what convinced me that camping alone was a good idea. Maybe it was the noise of the city, the constant ringing of my phone, the endless stress of work. Maybe I just wanted to prove to myself that I could disconnect, that I could spend one weekend with nothing but trees, fire, and silence. Whatever the reason, I regret it now, every second of it. I told myself it would be simple: drive out to a national forest 2 hours from home, hike a few miles in, set up camp by the lake, and spend the weekend fishing, reading, and enjoying solitude. I packed light: tent, sleeping bag, food, flashlight, fire starter. I even brought a small hatchet because there was something comforting about carrying it, even though I told myself it was just for chopping wood. The drive out was easy. It was late September, and the leaves had just started turning, spilling red and orange through the hillsides. The air was crisp, cool, perfect camping weather. I didn't realize until I reached the ranger station that I was the only person signing in that day. The ranger, an older man with a white beard and eyes that seemed too tired for his job, looked at me a little too long when I wrote my name in the ledger. "Heading out alone?" he asked. "Yeah," I said, trying to sound casual. "Just for the weekend." "By the lake." He hesitated, tapping his pen against the desk. "Not many folks go out that way this time of year. Nights get real cold." "You sure you're ready for it?" I laughed. "I'll be fine." I came prepared. He finally nodded, but his eyes lingered. As I left, he called after me. "Stay on the trail. Don't wander off. And if you hear something strange at night, don't answer it." I thought he was joking, a weird backwoods sense of humor. But later, I realized he wasn't joking at all. The trail was quiet. Too quiet. I expected birds, squirrels, the usual rustling of the woods, but as I walked deeper, the silence pressed against me. My boots crunched the leaves, and that sound became the only sound. About 3 miles in, the trail forked. One path led uphill into dense woods, marked with a weathered sign, "Overlook Ridge." The other led down toward the lake. I chose the lake, excited about the thought of waking up to water glimmering outside my tent. By the time I reached the shoreline, the sun was dipping low, bleeding gold across the surface of the lake. It was beautiful, and for a moment, I forgot about the silence, the strange look the ranger gave me. I set up camp, pitched my tent, gathered fallen wood, and started a fire. The flicker of flames, the warmth, the smell of burning pine, it grounded me. As night fell, I roasted hot dogs on sticks and opened a beer. I felt good, accomplished, free. But then, just as the fire began to die down, I heard it. A voice. It was faint, drifting across the lake. A single word. Help. I froze, the stick slipping from my hand into the dirt. I listened hard. The rippling water, the creak of the trees, and then, again, help. It wasn't loud, more like a whisper carried on the wind. I told myself it was nothing, just the water, or the wind bending through the trees. I was alone, after all. Had to be. Still, I stoked the fire higher that night, and when I finally crawled into the tent, I kept the hatchet right by my side. I didn't sleep well that first night. The voice haunted me. Every time I started drifting off, I thought I heard it again. Sometimes closer, sometimes farther. Always the same word: help. By morning, I convinced myself it was just my imagination, twisted by loneliness and the eerie silence of the woods. I told myself the forest was playing tricks. Still, when I crawled out of my tent, there were things I couldn't explain. Fresh footprints on the shoreline. Not mine. They were smaller. Barefoot. A trail of them pressed deep into the wet sand, as though someone had been standing just a few feet from my tent in the night. I stared at them for a long time. My brain tried to reason. Maybe a deer? Maybe erosion? But no. They were human. Small. Child-sized. And they led straight into the water. The surface of the lake rippled gently, disturbed by a breeze, but the footprints stopped at the edge, vanishing into the black-green depths. I felt a coldness in my stomach then, a tight coil of dread. I told myself not to panic. Instead, I hiked up to the ridge for some daylight air, hoping to clear my head. The higher I climbed, the more I realized how far away I was from anything. No cabins, no other campers, just endless trees and the occasional cry of a crow overhead. At the top, I found an old fire ring, charred stones, ashes scattered, but no sign of life. It looked abandoned for years, but something about it unsettled me. A piece of cloth was caught on one of the stones, faded red, torn raggedly like part of a shirt. When I picked it up, a smell hit me, coppery, metallic, blood. I dropped it instantly. My hand shook. My heartbeat thudded in my ears. I backed away, stumbling over the rocks, and nearly ran down the ridge. My mind screamed at me, "Go back to the car. Leave now. Forget the weekend." But my pride, my stubbornness, kept me rooted. I'd come out here for peace, for solitude. If I left now, I'd never forgive myself for being spooked over nothing. So instead, I returned to camp. I told myself I'd stay one more night. Just one. Then I'd pack up and head home. By the time dusk fell, I had almost convinced myself I was fine. I built another fire, cooked another meal, and watched the orange glow dance across the trees. And then, from the far side of the lake, I saw something move. A figure, standing still among the trees, too far to see clearly, but unmistakably human. I froze, my hot dog halfway to my mouth, eyes locked on the shadow across the water. It didn't move, didn't wave, didn't call out, just watched. I blinked, rubbed my eyes, looked again. Gone. The tree line was empty, but the fire no longer felt warm, and the woods, once silent, now seemed to hold their breath. That night, the fire seemed smaller. No matter how much wood I threw on it, the flames burned low, reluctant, as if the forest didn't want me to have light. I ate quickly, forcing down jerky and bread, and kept my eyes on the tree line. Every flicker of shadow made my stomach twist. The image of that figure across the lake, still, silent, watching, wouldn't leave my head. By the time I crawled into the tent, my nerves were shredded. I laid the hatchet beside me again, hand resting on the handle, and zipped the flap tight. The night was deathly quiet. Not just quiet, hollow, as though the woods themselves had stopped breathing. No insects, no owls, no frogs along the water. Nothing. And then, crunch. Footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. Just beyond the tent walls. I held my breath, every muscle locked. The sound moved around me in a circle, leaves and twigs snapping under careful weight. I wanted to scream, wanted to burst out swinging the hatchet, but fear glued me to the sleeping bag. My chest burned from holding air. Finally, the steps stopped. Silence again. I lay there, paralyzed, until my ears picked up a new sound. Scritch. Fabric. Something brushing against the tent wall. A fingertip tracing the nylon, dragging slowly from one corner to the next. I couldn't breathe. My vision swam. Then, a whisper, right against the tent wall, so close it vibrated the fabric. Help. The same word as before. The same hollow tone. But this time, I knew. It wasn't the wind. It wasn't the lake. It was right outside. I snapped. With a yell that was half rage, half terror, I unzipped the tent in one motion, hatchet raised, and burst into the night air. Nothing. The fire was a bed of glowing embers, faint light casting long shadows. The trees swayed in a weak breeze. The shoreline gleamed with silver moonlight. Empty. I spun, heart pounding, scanning every inch of darkness. No one. Nothing. And then I looked down. On the ground beside the tent was a handprint. Small, muddy, pressed deep into the earth. Fingers splayed. I staggered back, my breath catching. Because it wasn't just wet mud. The print was slick, shiny. When I touched it, my fingertips came away dark, sticky, blood. That was it. I couldn't take it anymore. I didn't care about pride or proving anything. I doused the fire with dirt, grabbed my flashlight, and stuffed everything I could into my pack. I was leaving. But as I slung the bag over my shoulders and turned toward the trail, I heard something behind me, the water, rippling. I turned just in time to see the surface of the lake break. Something pale, human-shaped, pulling itself up from the black water. And in the moonlight, I saw its face. White, featureless, smooth like clay. It didn't have a mouth. But I heard the voice anyway, inside my head this time, loud and clear. Don't go. I didn't hesitate. I sprinted down the trail, stumbling over roots and loose stones, flashlight swinging wildly. My breath ripped from my lungs in ragged gasps. Every sound, every snapping twig, every rustle of leaves made me jump as if it were the creature itself. I didn't look back. I didn't care. The forest had changed. Shadows stretched like claws. Trees leaned in, branches snagging at my sleeves and face. The moon barely penetrated the dense canopy. Every step felt like sinking deeper into a trap. Then I heard it behind me, a soft, wet, scraping sound. I froze. Nothing. I forced myself forward again, faster this time. My flashlight flickered. Once, twice. My heart slammed. I caught movement at the corner of my eye, a pale figure darting between the trees, impossible to focus on, like it was fading in and out of reality. My mind screamed at me, keep running. Branches tore at my clothes. I stumbled down a steep incline and landed hard, scraping my hands and knees. Pain shot through me, but I didn't stop. My only thought, get to the road, get to my car, get out of here. But the forest seemed to stretch endlessly. Every turn led to more trees, more shadows. The sound of the lake faded behind me, replaced by a new noise, soft, deliberate footsteps matching my own but slower. I stopped, chest heaving. My flashlight illuminated. Nothing. And then, whisper right in my ear. Help me. I spun. No one. I stumbled backward. My flashlight caught a glimpse of something. Tiny, human-shaped, darting between the trunks. It moved like a shadow, limbs bending in ways they shouldn't. I ran again, screaming this time, lungs burning. Hours or minutes passed. I don't know which. Time had warped. Every turn, every rock, every shadow felt like it was mocking me. And then I reached a clearing. Moonlight. Open ground. For a second, I thought I was safe. But in the center of the clearing was a tree, enormous, gnarled, and twisted. Hanging from one of the branches, my backpack, swinging gently. And beneath it, scrawled into the dirt with long, thin lines, like fingers had drawn it. You can't leave. I screamed. My mind snapped. I turned to run back the way I came, but the trail had vanished. The trees were different, wrong, too close, too tall. The forest I had hiked into hours ago didn't exist anymore. And then I saw them. Small figures, pale and silent, moving toward me from the shadows. Footsteps, whispers, dragging something across the leaves. I raised the hatchet, shaking, paralyzed with fear and disbelief. One of the figures stepped into the moonlight. Its face, featureless, smooth, blank, and it smiled. Not with a mouth, with its eyes. I backed away slowly, hard hammering. The faceless figures didn't run or attack. They just watched. Dozens of them, emerging silently from the trees, circling me, their pale forms swaying like reeds in a wind I couldn't feel. I tried to scream, but my voice caught. Someone, stepped forward from the shadows. Taller than the others, movements deliberate and human-like. I froze. And then it spoke. Not with a voice, not in words, but in my mind. You're not alone. The whispers multiplied, overlapping, twisting inside my skull. You can't leave. You never were alone. We've been waiting. My vision blurred. The forest spun. My legs gave out. I fell to my knees, and then I saw it. My own face mirrored on one of the faceless figures. Every detail. The eyes. The shape of my jaw. The lines around my mouth. Only wrong. Empty. My mind screamed. That's me. That's me. The figure raised a hand. No, not a hand. Something like a hand, but too thin, too long, too wrong. It pointed at me. You came here because you wanted to be free, it whispered in my mind. But freedom comes at a price. I tried to move, tried to run, but my body felt heavy, unresponsive. The forest closed in. Trees bending impossibly, branches stretching toward me, leaves scratching at my skin like fingernails. And then I understood. This forest, this place, it didn't exist in the normal world. The lake, the trail, even the tent, it had all been a lure, a trap. The figures weren't hunting me. They were me. Every one of them a shadow of my choices, my fears, my regrets. And now, they were ready to replace me. I screamed as one of the pale forms reached me. Its face, my face, pressed against mine, and I felt it slip into me, sinking into my skin, taking over my thoughts. I tried to fight, tried to claw it out, but it was too strong. My screams turned into theirs. My eyes saw what it saw. My body moved as it moved. And then, silence. I opened my eyes. I was back on the trail, near the car, morning sunlight warming my face. The backpack, the tent, the lake, they were gone. Nothing remained except the path leading home. Except something inside me had changed. A whisper, barely audible, curling in the back of my mind. Next time, you won't escape. I drove home in silence. The sun was bright, the streets familiar, but everything felt wrong. The air inside the car felt heavier. My hands trembled on the wheel. When I pulled into my driveway, I expected relief, safety, normality, but nothing felt normal. Inside the house, everything was as I had left it, except for one thing. On the kitchen table was a small red rag, faded and torn. My stomach dropped. I recognized it instantly. The same piece of cloth I had found at the fire ring in the woods. I dropped the keys. I ran to the mirror, desperate to see my own reflection. I froze. My eyes weren't mine. Not fully. There was a coldness there, a hollowness, something ancient, watching, waiting. And then I heard it again. Not outside, not in the woods, inside my head. Next time, you won't escape, I screamed, but my voice didn't feel like mine. It echoed strangely, layered with another presence. I tried to leave, tried to run, but my legs felt weak, like they didn't belong to me anymore. And I understood, with a crushing certainty. It wasn't over. The woods weren't just a place. They were alive. They had marked me, changed me. And somewhere, in some dark, impossible corner of the forest, another version of me, or something wearing me, was waiting for the next victim. I was alone, and yet I was not. The shadows weren't behind me anymore. They were inside me, and I knew, deep down, that the next time I thought I was safe, I wouldn't be. The forest had me now, in ways I couldn't escape, forever.
Thank you for watching C&T Horror Stories. Please like and subscribe for more stories.